There's just this great sense of eye rolling on environmental policies at the moment, because there's a sense that this is a really important area. The government should have a plan to, improve air quality, to try to reduce our emissions, to deal with the problem of global warming. But there's a sense that constantly politicians change their mind because they don't take it that seriously. We won't really know how this whole package that he's laying out over the next few weeks, including party conference, we won't know how much difference that's going to make for several weeks, I wouldn't think.
How do voters generally respond to prime ministers or parties scrapping things? Is it a negative response? Do they prefer people to say, we're going to introduce this, or are they happy with the idea of scrapping?
I think it depends. If things are sort of genuinely seen as being mad, then of course coming out and saying we're not doing this anymore goes down perfectly well. And I think people quite like it when politicians admit mistakes and say we thought this was going to work out fine. It's not going to work out fine. I think the problem with the net zero announcement was that people feel that they've been led up the garden path several times before. The thing that people always say in focus groups is, well, we had this with diesel. They all wanted us to buy diesel cars. We bought diesel cars, then they changed their minds. So people knew that this was coming. And there's just this great sense of eye rolling on environmental policies at the moment, because there's a sense that this is a really important area. The government should have a plan to, improve air quality, to try to reduce our emissions, to deal with the problem of global warming. But there's a sense that constantly politicians change their mind because they don't take it that seriously. So I think on balance, this is just going to make people roll their eyes and say, here's yet another thing where they've just changed their minds.
Interesting, this story on the front page of the Sunday Times about inheritance tax and the plan to potentially cut it and then eventually abolish it. Lots of people get quite irate about this, but the reality is only 3.76% of UK deaths result in inheritance tax. Does it poll well?
It does poll brilliantly, actually, and it has done for probably nearly 20 years. I remember polling this back in the mid-2000s, and it genuinely is a really detested tax, and it's detested for a number of reasons. Of course, in the Greater South East, you've got large numbers of people now that are sitting on houses worth way more than the threshold for inheritance tax, and they know that inheritance tax is going to hit them. So it's going to hit more and more people going further down the line. But even if you go to the poorest constituencies in the country, there is this sense that it's just unfair. It's tax upon tax, in the sense that people think, well, I've paid tax on my earnings for my whole life. I've paid tax on all the other things, and I'm getting taxed yet again once I've died. It's just not fair. So it genuinely is a very unpopular tax. And now a lot of people, presumably Labour this week, will be going, well, this is Rishi Sunak's tax. It's for rich people. But it just doesn't cut anymore. Genuinely, most ordinary sort of middle-class people think that they might be paying it in some form. And even working-class voters, as I say, that won't pay it, just think it's unfair and dislike it. So it's a good policy.
James, good to speak to you. Thank you. That's James Frayne. He's founding partner at consultancy Public First. They research voter attitude.